Welcome to A Very Explosion About Christmas, our podcast dedicated to the festive holidays. The festive season with films about Santa, snow, or being left home alone. Time of year when we all come together and argue about why nutcrackers are even a Christmas thing. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley, and helping me grow my heart 3 sizes with Christmas cheer is Dylan Black.
Nutcrackers are like American thing, right?
I assume so. I just assumed it was because the nutcracker's a thing.
Yeah, but like...
And that's Christmas related.
Yeah, but yeah, like I know there's a song, and I know like nut. But have you? I've never seen someone like I've never seen nutcrackers as a thing here.
No. No one's been utilizing nutcrackers really here.
Exactly. So yeah,
because I don't think here in Australia we have like the nut kind of nuts, or the nuts that you use a nutcracker for are not prevalent here in Australia.
I don't know. My pop had a nutcracker for like the big walnuts when I was a kid, but that's the only time I've ever seen one. I've never seen someone whip one out at Christmas, that's for sure.
But yeah, that's nutcracker talk for this week. We're really here to talk about the penultimate episode of season 2 of the Santa Clauses. It's hard to believe we're already here, almost at the end of the season. Near the end of November, so it's kind of crazy, but also kind of fitting because it seems like this show is not going to climax at Christmas, which seems like a interesting choice.
No, we're just a day past Easter, right? Timeline wise,
I assume so.
I think that's how
yeah.
it would be.
Yeah, I assume so because he's just gotten hit by the Santa snowball. But yes, we'll get into that in a second. Yeah. This week's episode is called Chapter 11. Betty, directed by Charles Randolph-Wright, written by Emalee, Burditt, and Hayley Frazier. Dylan, what did you think of this week's episode of The Santa Clauses?
We're very good at predicting the way the show will play out. That's what I think.
Get us on season 3.
You know, like just saying, we're very just getting it all right at every turn.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, But I guess that's my positive and negative. Everything I feel like we say is probably going to happens for this show so far, which is both like good because I'm like, okay, well, that's sort of what I wanted to happen anyway. But also it's just like very predictable, you know? I did very much enjoy the Betty flashback stuff, like this war segment, I guess, that they had. Obviously, they're not going to show too much. I don't know
if I'd call it a war.
Yeah, well, they refer to it as like
it's a one-sided fight. It seemed like.
Yeah, I like how that all came.
The elves sucker punched the gnomes. That's what happened.
Basically, I like how that all came together though, and like I understand why it's not. Obviously, it's not going to be an actual like battle. It's just, but I like the whole like we got Lava Father like gifted them all the. Sand and it's traps, and apparently Easter Bunny has tunnels that like they're like the
He's
ones
got Easter holes
in Breath of the Wild. You know, like
they didn't have it last week when they were doing Easter.
No, they didn't get that. But you know, that's a power that they didn't get. So I liked how all that stuff came together. So yeah, setting up for the fitting finale. Yeah, enjoyed it
in the middle of the year.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I enjoyed the episode as well. It was obviously this episode was very lore heavy. It was kind of a massive info dump, really. It's like, here's all this information that you need to know about Magnus Antus that we were saving until right now. But yeah, it was enjoyable. Also intercut with bits and pieces of like Magnus Antus, and there was mostly a bunch of jokes about it seemed like they were in the process of putting Tim Allen's makeup back on. They just shot reaction shots in between. And yeah, lots of fun little bits. So yeah, we obviously kick things off.
I was going to say, again, lots of like adult jokes amongst this whole episode, many a times, including my favorite, where it's just like, what are you going to misery me? Like, when she goes
have we've never checked her credentials.
Yeah, never checked her credentials. Comes from
she went to North.
She said she came North. Yeah.
So we open the episode with Chris being interviewed by a local news station, trying to find out about the how Christmas Land turned itself around. And the reporter not believing anything, Chris is saying, not interested.
Very rude person.
Very rude. You can pretend to be interested.
Yeah.
Just shooting down all his ideas. Yeah, he just wants to get together with his dad. Then Magnus Antus interrupts and starts calling himself Santa and all this kind of stuff. And Olga starts interrupting it. And of course, Betty sees it on her Cribble Crabble and decides she needs to go back to the North Pole. I don't know what she was drinking is the only thing. She was drinking something and she dropped it.
Drinking eggnog.
It looked like, yeah, probably. Definitely had like a flask of some sort.
All year round,
Yeah, absolutely. So we got back to the North Pole. Santa is dealing with the after effects of being hit by that snowball. Turns out Santa on Santa magic drains both the person who got hit with the magic and the person who used the magic. I don't know how they've actually tested this before, because I can't imagine there would have been much overlap in Santas ever before. But apparently it's a thing.
I don't know. Maybe it was just I know they said Santa on Santa, but then like after what they say later, I'm like, maybe it's just a like legendary on legendary thing. I don't know.
It could be a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So their solution to try and fix it is they break the watch, leading to the great misery joke to try and turn Santa back into Santa instead of Scott Calvin. But that doesn't work. So he'll slowly, over the course of the episode, turn himself back into Santa. In the meantime, Betty shows up from her Cribble Crabble to tell the story of how they overthrew Magnus Antus. But yeah, it's good to see Betty back in the show.
Yeah,
missed her. One of my favorite jokes is her partner going, "Oh, how'd you let this happen? You chose the wrong successor." And Santa's like, not so easy, is it?" Which obviously a joke about the first season in which he chose he didn't do a very good job of getting.
I mean, my number one question with everything involving her was there's a part where they're like, Bernard got captured from the Mad Santa apparently, and then I guess he like comes back at some point once she takes over and then gets his job back. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she gave him the job back because
yeah.
We'll get to that. Meanwhile, Cal is been tasked with finding his vest.
Well, he hasn't been tasked. He just realized that.
He said, "Go find your vest because I need you to go do Santa stuff."
As in, go get it out of your room because I presume that's the one location you should have left it. Yeah.
And Cal manages to remember, like, connect with his vest and learns of Magnus Antus's plan to take the North Pole and destroy all humans, pretty much. And he starts freaking out. So he decides he needs to go face Magnus Antus, but to get Sandra off his back, he sends her to La Befana, where, to collect his vest, where he says it is. Old bait and switch. Good times. So yeah, we get all these flashbacks to the time of Magnus Antus. Like you said, Betty is kind of the leader of the rebellion. She tried to get the legendary figures to turn it against Santa, but they all voted against it. La Befana, who apparently was a legendary figure.
I don't know if we knew that before.
No, I don't. That wasn't a known thing. Obviously, Santa also didn't realize she was a legendary figure. So,
so there you go.
Which is later explained in the episode. But yeah, Betty name drops Bernard. Says he left a note explaining, what Mad Santa's plan is. Also, the drop here is that this Mad Santa introduced the idea of putting coal in shitty kids' presents, stockings and stuff. So lots of massive parts of the Santa lore introduced by the Mad Santa, both good and bad. He introduced ho ho ho, and also coal. You get coal if you're bad. So
yeah. I want to know who introduced
spectrum.
the red suit. That's my who did
behind
that?
His back.
Behind his back.
But yeah, you get a bunch of So eventually it all leads up to the elves tricking the gnomes to come outside because this doesn't make a ton of sense. They hate music, but they're all drawn to it. And then they fight. And it turns out the elves have a bunch of magical weapons from the legendary figures, including Cupid's arrows, Santa's the Sandman's sand, and a bunch of other stuff we don't get to see.
And
yeah,
Mother Nature's wind, I think.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff they didn't have the budget to show them utilizing. But yeah, they quickly realize that Santa, the gnomes realize that they're trying to get Santa when he's unprotected. They run back underground. We flash back to what we saw in the first episode, which Magnus Antus is running with one gnome who we all retrospectively thought was Olga. Turns out that was Betty leading him towards an ambush. Right. And then it turns out La Befana resigned from the legendary figures because they couldn't strike against each other, and she is the one who turned Mad Santa into a nutcracker.
Twisty.
So yeah, at the end, Betty's like, man, I did a shitty thing. I rose up against Santa. I need to be expelled from the North Pole because I'm a bad elf.
It's written in stone.
And then Santa just rips up the card, which is definitely not made of stone.
Definitely not, no.
So yeah, I don't know why she would have thought that she did something wrong.
Well, she's a very rule
obligated person.
Yeah. So we know that from the first season and everything. So
yes. Also, another massive reveal that shook me to my foundations. Gary still has his eye.
Yeah, I know, right?
Santa's
it's not even what exciting. Like they do that joke last week with it. It's like, oh, he's gonna go play fucking darts and he's gonna get hit. No, you're like, okay, that's the explanation. And then this episode, that he's like, I've got 2 good eyes and a knife, or whatever he says.
I got 20 vision and a knife, a slingshot and a knife.
Yeah, slingshot.
What could possibly go wrong?
I'm like, it's just going to be continuing thing. And I'm pretty sure they still, by the end, he says.
And then one of the gnomes is like, I want that guy. He's pointing at Gary. You're like, oh, that's where he's going to lose it. No,
probably not.
So, next week, we're going to find out, maybe, how Gary lost his eye.
Next season, I think, at this point, like, it'll be continuing. Listen,
what we really want is a Gary spinoff.
Yeah.
Documenting the adventures of Gary. But yeah,
I really hope Olga
amused me.
I hope Olga turns to the light side by the end of this season, because Olga and Gary getting together would be my ultimate matchmaking. I think.
Oh, that's what you're shipping this season.
Yeah, that's what I'm shipping this season. Olga and Gary. Just saying.
I wouldn't put it past you. But yeah, Sandra goes to see La Befana. They talk out their issues. La Befana admits that she's scared of. Sandra admits that she was scared, and that's why she reacted the way she did. And La Befana says she is also scared of emotional moments like these, and they hug it out as they do. So yeah, they need to work together because La Befana has now turned the Easter Bunny into a lemon.
Yep.
As you do. So
closer.
Is it though?
No, not at
all. In the meantime, La Befana apparently has a tree that notices when a bell that notices when people leave the North Pole. And Sandra quickly works out Cal has overcome all his fears as left the North Pole on a sled.
I wouldn't say overcome his fears. He was pretty scared in the.
I mean, if you can still be scared and overcome something. You can still do something while scared.
Yeah.
Overcoming fears.
Yeah.
He's not doing something while being fearless.
He was not being fearless, that's for sure.
He was not being fearless. But yeah, then we cut to Cal confronting Magnus Antus, talking it out, wanting his vest back. Even there was that key moment, when he's talking to Olga and he's like, you're all hard on the outside, but inside you've got like a soft center.
Yeah. She's like, oh no.
Almost. Yeah. Almost got into it, but they banged.
And then he's like, Olga doesn't. How? Never. Her?
Never.
As if.
But yeah, then they tie up Chris, who was calling the police because he finally had enough of what. That's where he finally drew the line at them assaulting a child.
Murder of a teenager. Yeah.
Yep, which is understandable.
Yeah, fair enough.
So they duct tape them to the wall, which doesn't seem very practical. And then after Cal talks up his dad and how great he is and how much better.
He talks shit and then gets shot.
Well, he didn't intentionally. He just said he's the greatest Santa. Yeah. He gets turned into a figurine of some sort. It looked like
he's a nutcracker, right?
I guess it didn't really look like a nutcracker though.
I don't know what these Christmas ones look like. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we don't have enough nutcracker reference here in Australia as well.
Yeah, that's the problem.
So yeah, that's not great. But now the old mate Magnus Antus.
I googled Christmas nutcracker and that is 100% what it was.
Okay, well there you go. Turned into a nutcracker. So Magnus Antus is going to go get the sleigh and go back to the North Pole. Luckily, they've closed all vortexes to the North Pole, which stops them from heading out to get Carl. But they've figured out an alternate route out of the North Pole. They go to the letter room and they're going to return to send her a letter, and hopefully it takes Santa and Mrs. Claus somewhere good. Mrs. Claus has a Santa blaster, which apparently they've got in the North Pole for some reason, in case of emergencies.
I guess so.
Maybe
I like how we've come back to this though. Like it's made that one episode, one reference to it worth it. And yeah, another bit of lore, like explaining, what happens when kids send good stuff to Santa that weren't supposed to get sent back. But yeah, they get lightning zapped away somewhere, and that's where we leave off the next episode. So I just took it upon myself because I was like, I know I said earlier, nutcrackers crack nuts, right? Turns out Christmas nutcrackers don't actually crack nuts.
I mean, good ones do.
From not what I'm saying, it says, now, for anyone in America, I'm sure they're like, yeah, duh. But this is the point. This is what I'm saying. We have no fucking idea. This website, nutcrackermuseum.com, on the FAQ page.
Where is it? Where is the Nutcracker Museum?
I don't know. Hold on, we'll find that out next. Why are they called wooden toy soldier nutcrackers? And the answer is because the first nutcrackers were made as replicas of soldiers and other figures of authority. The common folk took great enjoyment in having the ruling people work for them, cracking their quote-unquote hard nuts of life. To term the wooden toy soldier differentiates this type of nutcracker from other types. We call it a nutcracker if it has a handle in the back that opens the mouth, even if it's too small to actually crack a nut.
Okay. So really it was about capitalism. And the ruling class holding everybody down, kicking them in the nuts.
Yes.
Okay.
The museum is located on 735 Front Street in downtown Leavenworth on the corner of Front and 8th Street, right across the street from the tall blue and white Melbourne pole.
Does it have a city or a state?
I mean, hold on. I'll Google Leavenworth. Washington State.
Okay.
It's in Washington. So, yeah. It's like in a small outside. Anyway, it's $5 for adults and $3.50 for kids. And the museum opening hours are 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So, shout out.
Every day?
Nutcracker Museum. Yes, it says every day.
All right. Check it out if you're in America. All right. So what's happening next week?
We're going to have a throwdown. We're going to do some magic. And then we're going to do some more magic. And then they're going to blast. And they're going to be a bunch of talking. And then they'll do some jokes. And then on Olga gets with Gary.
Yeah. They'll see each other from across the room.
Yeah.
And something.
Yep.
They'll lock eyes / eye.
I like eye. Yeah.
Yeah. And, all this time, things have changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
My other question, what do you think happens to the rest of the gnomes?
Yeah. Best not to ask those questions, I think.
They got banished from the North Pole. Simply on the wibbly wobbly woods.
I think they just got banished, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the other interesting question is what happened in between the Mad Santa and the next Santa. Also, they did this a couple of days before Christmas. So what happened that Christmas?
The intern, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I also would have loved... It would have been great if Bernard was in this episode, I think. Even though Betty was built to be the hero, it would have been great to have seen him in one of these flashbacks.
I had his... I got my fix of Bernard cameo last season. I'm good.
I'm also sad we didn't see the demise of Toots. Toots the head off.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, too vicious, too violent for this show, I think.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this episode of the Santa Clauses?
No, I'm really surprised that everything went so bad for this Santa when he treats his head, his head person, as he said, he let her eat his chicken bones, So,
yeah. We'll say that intimidating scene when he's like about to be turned into a cracker and he's saying, I'm going to remember all your names. And just lists off a dumb names.
Yep. Not Bernard, Tukas Pocus, and Betty. That's the only way to go right.
Sweet little Betty. What was it again? Betty.
Betty.
Very menacing. Good work by Stonestreet. And also my favorite joke of the episode. What? He clearly looks like a baby. The baby of the Monopoly man and Colonel Sanders.
It's true, he did.
He did.
He very much did.
Yeah. All right, let us know what you thought of this week's episode of the Santa Clauses by going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump into our Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at Very Explosion Network Christmas, leave us a review on our podcast or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars, and you can leave 5 stars or just tell people about the show. And if you've enjoyed what we're doing here, I think it's worth $1. Head on up to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support to spread that Christmas cheer. Thank you very much for listening, and remember, you can't outrun a coup on an empty stomach.